They thought they had you figured out, the quiet one, the patient one. To them, your silence meant weakness. Your calm meant submission. They dismissed you, convinced that you had no idea what they were up to. But what they never realized is that you saw through it all. Every manipulation, every false judgment. Beneath that quiet surface, there's a force they could never comprehend, a strength waiting to be unleashed. The underestimated, the overlooked. Now the moment they never anticipated is here. It's time to reveal who you truly are, and they have no idea what's coming. They never sense the quiet power lying dormant within you, like embers waiting for a spark to ignite. Their disregard was almost mechanical, thoughtless, a cruelty wielded without care or conscience. No hesitation crossed their minds as they acted, as if trampling over your spirit was their right, as if you held no worth in their eyes. To them, you were a mere obstacle, something to cast aside without a second thought, fueling their fleeting illusion of control. They walked in blind confidence, treating you as if you were unaware of their disdain. Yet all the while you observed, fully aware of each subtle betrayal and hidden move, prepared to unleash a force they could never have anticipated. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. 2 Corinthians 4:18. You see, friends, sometimes in life, we find ourselves in the face of voices that try to diminish our light, whispering words that aim to steal our joy, our pride, our worth. They think they've got the upper hand. They believe they're breaking us, knocking us down a peg. But let me tell you something. Those words, those judgments, they're like a shadow on the wall. They only have the power we give them. When others try to tell you who you are or what you're worth, understand they're just echoing their own limitations. They're only revealing the boundaries of their own insecurities. They think they've got you figured out, but they have no clue about the strength that lies within. Your worth, your strength, those aren't things any human can measure. No one has the authority to define what God has already placed inside you. And every hurtful word they toss your way, every insult and every slight, those aren't weights to drag you down. Oh no, those are seeds, friends. Those are seeds of resilience, seeds of fortitude, planted deep within, nurtured by the very storm they've tried to create around you. They can't see it, but those seeds are growing, rooted in the soul, flourishing in the silence of their blindness. And when the time is right, they'll sprout into a force of strength, a light they'll never see coming. See, the thing is, they think they know you. They think you're easy to read, easy to manipulate. But they're only seeing what's on the surface. They're not equipped to see the magnitude of what's stirring beneath. And that, my friends, is where they get it all wrong. They're so caught up in their own narrow view, trapped in their own insecurities, that they've missed what God has placed inside you, an unstoppable spirit, a fire that no storm can put out. Their arrogance blinds them, shields them from the truth, so they keep trying to break you, not knowing they're only fanning the flames of something far greater than they could ever control. One day, that strength, that resilience, it's going to rise up. And when it does, those who doubted you, those who underestimated you, they're going to realize their error. They'll see the power they never believed in, the power that was never theirs to touch. They thought they were in control, but in reality, they were simply laying the stones on a path they'd never see coming, a path leading to their own downfall. Because when you're standing in God's light, when you're rooted in a strength beyond this world, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And that, my friends, is the truth they'll never comprehend. So hold your head high, stand tall in the face of their words, their judgments, and their doubts. Let them think what they want to think, because you know the truth. Your spirit is eternal, crafted by a hand that knows no limits. Their words are fleeting, but the strength within you, that's everlasting. Gradually, the illusion began to fracture. No sudden, dramatic unraveling, just the quiet, inevitable collapse of their misperceptions. The truth seeped through like water finding cracks in stone, subtle yet unrelenting. There was no grand reckoning, no scene. Instead, a slow dawning settled upon them, bringing with it a sinking realization. Their confidence withered as a new awareness replaced their old certainties. The smirks faded. The superiority they once wore like armor turned to unease, for they finally sensed a strength they'd overlooked, present and undeniable beyond the boundaries of their shallow assumptions. The power of your true worth didn't erupt from nowhere. It was an undeniable current, rising steadily with each choice, each determined step. It glimmered unmistakably in your presence, a depth they had missed, but now could no longer avoid. The weight of their own actions now bore down on them, inescapable and merciless. The very energy they once used to try to hold you down now circled back to confront them. Every cruel word, every act meant to diminish you had transformed into a force that now crushed them under its own relentless weight. It was as though everything in the universe had come to a head, calling them to account, dismantling their misguided confidence until all that remained was the hollow shell of their self-deception. The cruelty they once directed at you so effortlessly has vanished, leaving only a hollow regret that gnaws at them, a helplessness they never thought they'd feel. Now, with your strength shining undeniably, you stand beyond their reach, a force they can neither grasp nor challenge. Their sense of control has crumbled under the weight of the truth they once dismissed, and the moment they realized their misjudgment has marked them. They can no longer approach, for your brilliance is now like a blazing horizon, a sight too intense for them to bear. They assumed they could dismiss your worth without consequence, and now they struggle under the shadow of their oversight. What they mistook for fragility was, in fact, a restrained energy gathering quietly in unseen depths. You were never meant to be diminished by their limited view, never destined to remain hidden in their ignorance. This strength within you was waiting for its moment, ready to emerge when it could no longer be confined. And now, like a powerful surge breaking free of all bounds, it floods into the open, overwhelming them in its presence. There is no escape from this truth. It surrounds and consumes, a constant reminder of the light they tried but failed to extinguish. Now, as they scramble to bridge the distance they once imposed, they might come back to you, draped in words meant to soothe and reconcile. Their apologies, void of sincerity, carry the trembling notes of regret. They see, belatedly, that they cannot ignore your worth any longer, and the power they thought they wielded has dissolved, leaving them defenseless and lost. But you exist now, in a realm they cannot reach, elevated and resilient, untethered by the grasp of those who tried to diminish you. Their pleas to restore the influence they once held fall to the wayside, powerless against the strength that now defines you. Your journey was never intended to be governed by those who lack the depth to recognize your potential. Their calculated actions, their attempts to define you by their limitations, were always futile against the core of who you are. Your essence was crafted beyond the reach of mediocrity, a light formed in places they could never understand. Though they sought to bind you to a realm that suited their limited vision, you were always destined to soar, propelled by forces beyond their comprehension. The power they tried to suppress was never within their grasp. Your path was never theirs to alter. Here is the opportunity to find those who understand the path you walk, not as mere companions, but as souls aligned in the pursuit of purpose and mastery. The invitation is below. Step into a realm meant for those who transcend the ordinary, for those destined to rise. You were never molded by the hands that tried to limit you. Long before they sought to confine you, your spirit burned bright, concealed only by the shadows they cast, waiting for the moment it would break through and outshine their expectations. You were always protected, never lost, and never weak. The unseen forces guiding you have been steadfast, even when others dismissed or overlooked your worth. Now, with the truth unveiled, it stands as an undeniable force. The very ones who once believed they could suppress your light, who thought they had the power to stifle your spirit, find themselves surrounded by a fire of their own making. In attempting to extinguish your brilliance, they only fan the flames that now expose their hollow illusions. Their actions have returned to haunt them, and the heat of their own recklessness now consumes the false sense of control they once clung to. They thought they could linger near your strength without consequence, thinking themselves shielded from any repercussion. Yet now, faced with the blaze they themselves kindled, they realize the cost of trying to keep you confined. With indifference, deception, and betrayal, they had piled on the weight, believing their actions were without consequence. To them, you were merely an obstacle, easily brushed aside for the sake of their own agendas. But the universe keeps its own tally. The truth, once concealed, now shines with unrestrained intensity, confronting them with a force they can neither escape nor deny. The very flames they once kindled carelessly now surround them, an unyielding inferno fueled by the aftermath of their own deeds. The heat is unbearable, stripping away the illusions they built and turning every false comfort to dust. What they once saw as power was only a fragile mask, now disintegrating in the unrelenting surge of truth. They thought they could control you, mold you, but in their arrogance, they unwittingly ignited a force that now consumes them. Regret festers within, smoldering like an ember that refuses to cool, a reminder of their own undoing. The searing realization isn't just inescapable, it has embedded itself within them, leaving a mark they can never erase. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Let me tell you, friends, there are those who walk through life thinking they're untouchable. They build their lives on plans, schemes, thinking they can control every outcome, every consequence. They plant seeds of manipulation and betrayal, believing that they'll never have to face the harvest. But here's the truth of it. You can't plant weeds and expect roses. Eventually, those seeds take root, and the fruit they bear is bitter, sharp, and unyielding. See, they thought they could wield the fire, stoke it against you, thinking they were safe on the outside. But they forgot that fire has a way of spreading, of turning against those who play with it. They thought they could set the blaze and walk away unscathed. But now, the very flames they set are rising up to meet them, reminding them of every step they took, every lie they told. And that fire, friends, it's not a quick burn. No, it's a slow, relentless heat, pressing down on them in the quiet moments when there's nowhere left to hide, no schemes left to distract them. Imagine it. Each decision they made, each hurt they tried to inflict, it's all coming back to them now, not as a whisper, but as a weight, a heat that won't cool. It's a fire that refuses to be quenched, an awareness they can't shake. They once thought they were so clever, so strong, but now they're facing a truth they cannot escape. The very actions they used to tear you down are now the chains that bind them, the flames that scorch their every thought. And no amount of scheming, no amount of cleverness can save them now. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7. My friends, let me tell you something about life and the paths we walk. The world is a field, and each of us a sower in that field. We're given seeds by the choices we make: kindness, honesty, mercy, or maybe pride, greed, deceit. Now, these seeds don't stay buried forever. Oh no, they have a life of their own, and sooner or later, they start to grow. And when they do, they'll bear a harvest we have no choice but to face. You see, the field of life doesn't play favorites. It doesn't distinguish between good and bad. It simply brings forth what's planted. The harvest is inevitable, and just as the sun rises every morning, so too will that harvest come. There are some who plant seeds in darkness, thinking they can hide them from others, maybe even hide them from themselves. They act with a selfish heart, believing they're beyond the reach of consequence. They think they can dodge the fruit of what they've sown, that somehow it will be different for them. But the truth is, no one escapes the fields of their own making. It's the nature of this life, a spiritual law written into the very fabric of existence. And when that fruit finally comes, they can't pick and choose which parts to keep. No, they'll find themselves face to face with the full weight of every choice they've made, every moment of deceit, every instance of harm. It all returns in a way that's undeniable. And friends, when you plant in darkness, that darkness will find its way back to you in the light. It's a heavy thing to live with, let me tell you. Day by day, it grows. It sits on their shoulders, follows them in every quiet moment. In the stillness, there's no escaping it. They may try to cover it up, may even try to spin it into something else, but there's no getting around the truth. It's as clear as day, burning in their mind like a light that can't be dimmed. This isn't just a warning. It's a reminder to each of us to consider what we're planting in our own lives. Because make no mistake, the field won't be cheated and the harvest will come. Let's choose carefully the seeds we're planting today. Seeds of love, compassion, forgiveness. Because just as sure as anything, those will come back to us as well, filling our lives with blessings instead of burdens. So, my friends, as you go about your day, remember, you're not just walking through life, you're sowing. And whatever you plant today, you will one day hold in your hands. Friends, this is a law of the universe, a spiritual principle written by the hand of God Himself. You cannot sow betrayal and reap peace. You cannot plant selfishness and expect love. When they tried to dim your light, they were only setting the stage for their own fall. And now, that stage is lit, the spotlight too bright to escape, the truth of their actions etched into every shadow they see. They are bound to the fire they ignited, unable to find relief, unable to step away from the consequences that are now rooted so deeply within. And that's the power of truth, my friends. It cannot be controlled, it cannot be contained. In the end, it all comes full circle. What was done in darkness is brought to light. And while they wrestle with the weight of their choices, you, the one they tried to hold down, you rise, untouched and stronger than ever. Because when God has set His hand upon you, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Their fire was never yours to bear. It was always meant for them. And now, they know that, feeling every flame, every ounce of the truth they tried to deny. Risen, untouched by their attempts to bind you, you stand beyond their reach, fortified in your own strength. As they struggle with the blaze, they may attempt to find refuge, seeking your forgiveness not out of genuine regret, but to cool the flames that torment them. They'll return with quiet words, apologies tinged with urgency rather than truth. They feel the weight of their actions, but not in repentance, in desperation to evade the fire within. They hope your presence might somehow douse the heat, that you might soothe the burns of their mistakes. But you see clearly now, they don't seek reconciliation out of sincerity. They seek relief from the consequences that haunt them. Their regret doesn't stem from remorse, but from the unbearable pressure that now consumes them. They will approach, disguised with soft pleas and explanations, trying to hide the truth of their intentions beneath empty words, hoping you will help them escape what they brought upon themselves. But you are no longer within reach, no longer swayed, immune to their attempts to extinguish the flames they alone ignited. Their aim isn't genuine change, they seek only an escape. They know now that you hold the strength they once tried to diminish, a power they never managed to extinguish. They crave the comfort of your radiance, hoping to ease the weight of their own choices. But this light was never meant for them. They cannot stand within it now, not after everything they tried to take from you. Guard your energy with unwavering resolve. Do not let them cross your threshold, no matter how convincing their words. Their presence would only disrupt the sanctuary of peace you've built, for they carry with them the embers of old intentions, still waiting for a chance to reignite. Their desperation has grown, but they remain unchanged, clinging to the fire they once set in motion. They'll try to pass the weight of their own choices onto you, hoping you'll absorb the fallout of their actions. But those burdens are not yours to bear. You owe them nothing, no shelter, no relief from the intensity of their own doing. Stand firm in your strength, protecting the brilliance that is yours. If they could not handle the flames they sparked, they have no place in the warmth of your resilience. They may insist the flames taught them, that they've been reshaped by the very fire they set. But beneath their words, that same chaos still lingers. To allow them back would be to open the door to disruption, welcoming the disorder they bring under the guise of remorse. They remain unchanged, carrying the embers of the past, disguised but ready to ignite once more. Standing firm and keeping them at bay is not unkindness. It is a shield for your own well-being, a protection for the strength you've fought so hard to reclaim. They now see you in your power, a light they once thought they could snuff out, and it unsettles them. But you owe them no sanctuary, no place in the peace you've nurtured. Let them face the consequences of their own actions alone, for they must bear the intensity of what they ignited. No matter how they mask it, the fire of their intentions smolders beneath their surface. They may promise transformation, but that destructive force remains within them, unaltered and inseparable. If you let them near again, you risk reigniting the same chaos that once threatened to consume your light. Their goal is not healing. It is to seek an escape from the turmoil of their own creation. Allowing them in once more would be inviting that heat back into your life, placing the hard-won peace you have cultivated at risk. The truth remains, they are drawn not by a genuine need for growth, but by an attempt to shed the consequences that now follow them. Your light is not theirs to share, and allowing them back would only mean exposing yourself to the destruction they have yet to leave behind. Now, they are ensnared by a judgment they thought they could evade, a reckoning that feels like an unrelenting blaze closing in on all sides. This is not mere regret or remorse. It is an inescapable response from a force greater than themselves, a truth they cannot negotiate or soften. The weight of their choices now burns under a light that penetrates every shadow, every layer of false intentions they tried to hide. This force, far beyond their grasp, has counted each of their actions, every slight, every betrayal. There is no shelter here, only the piercing clarity of a power that sees through their facades, stripping away any disguise they once wore. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be brought to light. Luke 8:17. My friends, there are moments when the scales of the universe shift, and every hidden thing is brought to the surface. For those who thought they could walk in shadows, choosing selfishness over truth, this is the moment of reckoning. They once believed their choices were like mist, fading into the air, forgotten. But God's justice does not forget. No, those choices don't disappear. They gather, they collect, like a fire, waiting for its spark. And now, that fire blazes around them, fierce and undeniable. This heat they feel isn't some random pain or fleeting discomfort. It's the result of what they themselves have ignited. They stand before a light that sees every hidden motive, every false word. This is not a human punishment, not something they can apologize away or dismiss with a shrug. No, this is a holy weight, a true balancing of the scales. The truth is clear, this isn't a consequence imposed upon them. This is the natural outcome of what they have chosen, a fire they kindled in their own hearts. Now they must bear it, feeling every ounce of its heat, knowing that no retreat will save them. They may try to return, seeking relief from the flames that now follow their every step. Subtle gestures, softened words, each a plea to find solace near you, hoping the comfort of your presence might ease their burden. But remember, they are not seeking forgiveness. They want refuge from the consequences their own actions have brought. They believe your light can shield them from the intensity of the fire they've ignited, but this is a blaze that is theirs alone to face. It is the result of choices they made, and bringing them back into your life would mean allowing that smoldering chaos into your carefully cultivated peace. This is not your fire to bear. The path of spiritual balance does not accommodate empty apologies, nor can it be diverted by mere gestures. They may present themselves as transformed, as remorseful, yet the weight they carry cannot simply vanish. Their choices are theirs to reckon with, and inviting them back would only transfer that heat to you, risking all that you've worked to restore. There is no room for second chances here. The forces beyond us have seen their deeds and judged their intentions, and they now carry the burden of that truth. They cannot run from the consequences nor smother them under your forgiveness. Their attempts to return are driven not by genuine change, but by a desire to escape what now surrounds them. This fire is not yours to bear. It is their lesson, their reckoning, and it will not fade by seeking comfort in your presence. Allowing them back would only invite their troubles into the sacred space you've rebuilt. You are not responsible for their comfort, nor is your light theirs to share. They must face the results of their choices alone as the fire they sparked continues to burn. You are free to stand firm in the peace you have earned, leaving them to face the path they have carved for themselves. Hold firm, letting them face the blaze they themselves created. This is not cruelty. It is justice unfolding. Their path now is to confront the full weight of their actions without interference. The truth you embody is a light they cannot bear, and you are under no obligation to ease the heat of their guilt. Let them wrestle with the fire of their own remorse, a consequence they carry alone, a relentless force that reminds them with each moment. You owe them nothing, not your understanding, not your presence. To go back would be to step into flames you have already escaped. Steadfast in the strength you've claimed, remain untouched by the shadows they once tried to cast over you. What they sought to silence has now become a beacon far too bright for them to endure, and it is up to you to safeguard it fiercely. Rise higher as they struggle under the weight of choices they made. They can no longer approach your light, for its intensity exposes all they once tried to ignore. Now is your moment to speak, to stand as a testament to resilience.